Good afternoon. Good to see you all. It's been a busy time since I last saw you. I've continued to meet different leaders across the political system in the US on both sides of the aisle. Last night we had a reception to celebrate the 75th anniversary of NATO. Had two components to it. One was a very informal component, which was a great chance to meet different leaders across Europe, and then equally a very cool ceremony with a lot of American pomp and circumstance to celebrate what is probably the most successful alliance that's probably been built for a period of time, 75 years of NATO. Today's just been continuing to talk to leaders across different political leadership here in America. This afternoon I'm off to see the Ways and Means Committee. As you've probably got a sense of it, senators and committees in the system are really, really powerful, really influential, and very important to have direct relationships with them. So I meet with a number of senators, another couple of committees, and then into conversations with Prime Minister Trudeau, Callas, and also President Macron before we go to the White House. We were hosted by President Biden for dinner this evening. And then tomorrow, we'll talk about tomorrow morning, but I am chairing the IP4, which is the Indo-Pacific 4 countries and our engagement with NATO.
Tonight you're likely to meet with President Biden for the first time. Might be limited chat. What's the message you want to get across?
Oh, look, that I want New Zealand to be a trusted partner, and we appreciate the US's re-engagement in our region, the Pacific in particular, but certainly across the broader Indo-Pacific.
What are you hoping? Why are you wooing MAGA Republicans?
Sorry?
Why are you wooing MAGA Republicans?
What do you mean by that? Or
why are you meeting up with MAGA Republicans?
I meet with people from both sides of the aisle, as I've said, and so whether they're Democrat or Republican, my job in a large political system like this is to make sure that at all levels of government, whether it's Congress, whether it's senators, whether it's committees, whether they're Democrat or Republican, powerful and senior officials that are influential, that I'm actually positioning New Zealand well with those individuals for our national interest and for our national benefit.
Bill, what are you hoping to get? Cruz, are you hedging your bets that Donald Trump will win the next election?
No, senators in the system are really powerful, remembering there's only 50 of them. They have huge influence. They also drive what we would call select committees back at home, but they have real teeth and they have real authority. So it's really important that you meet with people. I met yesterday with Amy Klobuchar, for example, and Maria Cantwell and Joe Ossoff you saw as well yesterday. So whether they're Democrat or Republican, I'm meeting with everybody because my job is, irrespective of who wins the election in November, I have to, as I say, work with
What are you hoping to get out of your meeting with Macron and Prime Minister Trudeau?
Well, Prime Minister Trudeau and I have spoken before on the phone, and we had a good catch-up again last night as well. And so we'll just talk through a range of issues, opportunities really, between New Zealand and their respective countries. Obviously, with President Macron, New Caledonia will be a topic of conversation as well.
And with Trudeau?
I'm not sure. We may well do. We'll see where that goes. We've got a few other things we want to talk to about trade as well and CPTPP. But yes, we may. Well, I probably will raise AUKUS.
Yeah. And just with the trade,
the dairy dispute.
Yes, I will be. Yeah.
Ted Cruz could likely be running for president again in 2028. How important is that relationship to you?
Well, again, there's a number of, as you would have observed, senators is a very viable pathway to the presidency here in the US, as is actually state governors as well. They're the two predominant pathways. And so, again, my view is that I need to meet with, anyone and everyone, frankly.
What world leaders did you?
Prime Minister, Ways and Means is obviously
very powerful.
Yep. Committee for New Zealand. It's its oversight over trade and tariff policy.
Yes.
So what's your message? What's your message going to be for that committee?
Well, again, that we are a trading nation. 1 in 4 of our jobs are tied to trade. Companies that sell New Zealand and export from New Zealand actually have higher wages and salaries. We are very big champions of free trade. And that's what has been my message to both sides. Yeah.
Just on the trade dispute with Canada, they've barely budged on this issue to do with dairy for a number of years now. Do you expect to make any headway when you meet with Prime Minister Trudeau?
Well, it's just he and I haven't had a chance to talk about it before. It's just something that I want to engage with him on, and so we'll have a pretty direct conversation.
Sorry, did you have introductions with last night, and what were those talks about at the dinner?
Yeah, look, it was really quite a neat format because there was essentially the 32 NATO leaders and the 6 partner leaders that are there as well. There were a number of leaders like Prime Minister Kishida and the Korean Prime Minister, and also Keir Starmer and actually President Zelensky actually hadn't arrived at the event last night. They've arrived late last night and will be there today. But it was just a chance to go and just actually chat informally, talk about their countries and actually largely relationship building. So in my case, it was a great chance, for example, to spend some time with the German Chancellor. It was a really good opportunity to, I spoke to everyone from the German Chancellor down to sort of the Iceland Prime Minister, and it was a good opportunity to sort of raise the profile of New Zealand and ourselves with them. And these meetings are quite informal and quite relaxed because everyone's leaders, they're all wrestling with some of the same challenges, same problems.
Not necessarily at the...
Well, what I mean is, ranging from Iceland as representative right through to Germany, through to many other countries that I spoke to as well, and their leaders. Yep.
Have you had an opportunity to talk to Sir Keir Starmer yet?
No, I haven't. We haven't been in a format to be able to do that yet.
And do you know who you're sitting next to at tonight's White House dinner?
I don't yet, no.
Who would you like to be sitting between?
I will sit beside whoever I'm placed to sit beside.
Are you quite pumped to meet President Biden?
Sorry?
Are you quite pumped to meet President Biden?
Yeah. I really enjoy meeting the leaders because actually, at the end of the day, we're all wrestling with some of the same problems. And so, last night was great because, as an extrovert, I enjoy those forums, and it's a good opportunity to get a sense of what's going on in their country, what are they seeing in their environment, what are they wrestling with, what are the challenges that they're dealing with. Obviously, I've got a good sense of what our challenges are in New Zealand, and some of it's the same, some of it's different, and so you just build broader understanding of some of the issues that are sitting in different regions of New Zealand.
Were you impressed with President Biden's speech, opening remarks?
I thought it was a great speech, yeah, and I thought actually Jen Stoltenberg, who I spent a lot of time with in the informal part too as well, and he came and showed me his presidential medal at the end of the night as well, which was great. That he has done an exceptionally good job over the last 10 years, but I thought both speeches were excellent.
In terms of what he announced on behalf of a lot of the NATO partners, do you think that is far enough, I guess, in terms of what Ukraine is looking for, or is there going to need to be a lot more that comes from both NATO and from the IP4 yet?
Well, there may well need to be ongoing commitment. I think the sentiment is very clear, is that, and as a country, as a liberal democracy like New Zealand that believes in the sovereign state of nations, that you don't have unilateral actors just moving in on a country like we've seen with Russia and Ukraine, that we believe in freedom and we believe in democracy and freedom of navigation and all those good things, there is deep commitment and consensus to make sure that we have to win in Ukraine. And so if there's more support needed, we'll continue to have that conversation with the Ukrainians. You've seen us in New Zealand build up to our commitment, so far standing at $130 million. And we'll continue to look for opportunities to continue to do more.
And those conversations that you're having with NATO leaders, are they confident that Ukraine can win this?
Yeah, we all have to be. Yes, we are. We have to win this. This is actually quite seminal and quite critical to our core values that we all collectively believe in. And that's why we're here as part of the IP4, which is the construct that NATO's created for us as four like-minded countries. Because actually, as you can see, we have a number of flashpoints and tension points across our own region. Think Taiwan, think North Korea, think South China Sea. And we've seen conflict like Ukraine break out in Europe, and we've seen huge amounts of economic pain and suffering around the world as a consequence, and also in Western Europe. So, the principles that we're wrestling with are the same principles that the European leaders are wrestling with as well.
Do you agree? Sorry, just one more question on that. So do you agree then with the sort of idea that if Putin can be shut down and contained, that will send a message to Xi Jinping as well and will help restore some sort of sense of security and stability in the Indo-Pacific as well?
Well, what we're wanting to do is to buttress the international rules-based system, and it's important you don't just mouth the words, you actually follow through with action. And any unilateral action by a single player like we have seen in Russia or frankly anywhere else in the world, I think it's very important that we make that message, and we make that message very, very clear.
Just returning to your meeting with Ted Cruz this afternoon, out of all US lawmakers that you're meeting on Capitol Hill, he's probably the most influential. So what specifically...
I'm sure many other senators would argue they're just as influential, if not more.
What specifically are you hoping to get out of that?
This is a place with large egos. So I just say to you, look, my conversations with the senators individually or in committee has actually been making the case for New Zealand, really talking about what we're wanting to achieve in the Indo-Pacific region, that we are wanting to be trusted partners, and that has been really important to us.
A leaked report shows that with the ferry that crashed in a couple of weeks ago, somebody accidentally hit the autopilot button, or there was a malfunction in the way that what button they were supposed to press. Have you been briefed on this, and what do you make of this?
No, I haven't. All I know is that there'll be a lot of stories and rumour around what actually did or didn't happen. We have a take investigation up and running, and also a Maritime New Zealand investigation up and running. I'll wait to see those formal reports before I pass any comment.
But
about that.
the story comes from a leaked investigation. Have you not been?
It may well be, but until I actually see those final reports, I'll read those and I'll believe those.
Are you comfortable that your Deputy Prime Minister is one of the people who's been providing the hot takes and reckons on what happened in terms of them going off to get a coffee?
Well, I haven't seen what Winston said or done otherwise, but I just say to you, as Simeon Brown put in place a pretty good process. I appreciate there's lots of stories and rumours and reckons as to what people think has happened, but until we get those official investigations...
Is that appropriate for Winston Peters?
Well, those are questions for him, but what I just say to you is we have a process in place. Our government will be responding to the formal reports which will be issued by Maritime New Zealand and take.
Prime Minister, one of the things that's quite notable at the NATO conference is the number of countries who border Russia, or for him it's a really urgent thing. I mean, one of the things you're going to be taking away from this when you go back to New Zealand, thinking about how else New Zealand can help, how New Zealand can up its contribution?
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing you take away is that we genuinely we want to ensure the rules-based system is maintained, right? The reality is New Zealand has done exceptionally well since World War II because there has been peace and stability under that system. But it is under threat, and so it is under threat when you see examples like we're talking about with Russia, Ukraine. And that is why it's encouraging that there is a uniformity and a consensus and a determination and a spirit to make sure that we actually stand up for those values, because otherwise, and we actually do something about it. And that's what people say to me, why are you so far away from Ukraine? Why have we invested $130 million of Kiwi taxpayers' money into that? Because we believe in these principles, and you believe things, you've actually got to do something about it.
I guess what I'm asking is, do you think that we're currently doing enough, or is it the case that you might go home, talk to officials and say, what else can we do? What have you?
No, look, I'm proud of the commitment that we've made. We've got almost 100 personnel working with the Brits in the UK training Ukrainian soldiers. You saw yesterday we put another $16 million in humanitarian assistance and also some military support. That is, I think I'm proud of the contribution we make. But again, it doesn't preclude us from continuing to say, is there anything more that we can do? And particularly if asked for any capability that we have that we can share, any other support resources that we can deploy, we'll stay very open on that front.
Prime Minister, are you a George Clooney fan?
A George Clooney fan? I am, yes.
Did you catch his op-ed in the New York Times today?
No, I didn't.
He's calling for President Biden to stand down. How do you make that?
Again, as I said yesterday, I don't comment on domestic and internal US politics. Yeah.
Even when George Clooney says it?
I'm a big fan of George Clooney. I often say to Mark Mitchell, I think George Clooney should play him in his movie. If there was ever a movie on Mark Mitchell's life, I think George Clooney would be the guy to do that job.
Yeah. How many world leaders do you reckon you have clocked up so far, and how many do you think you might be going home with having met?
Well, I mean, one is I really do enjoy these opportunities, and I enjoy these kinds of trips, and I enjoy the discussion and the content of the discussion, but I also enjoy just building relationships and rapport with individuals, and you end up talking about your families and how you juggle your job, and all sorts of different conversations come along. I'm not keeping a clock count per se. I think I must have run into 13 or so leaders yesterday that we had really good conversations with. As I said, we've got a few more to do this afternoon, and again this evening will be another opportunity to actually have those conversations. And the informal settings are actually really good if you use them in the right way to actually make that connection, build that relationship. And again, a lot of what I'm trying to do is make sure that we get share of mind as New Zealand, position New Zealand very positively, and as a trusted partner. That's really the goal here.
Do you reckon there are more egos in American politics than there are in New Zealand?
Oh no, there are egos in politics everywhere, as I've found the last 3.5 years. Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Thank you guys.